I've always run my business differently. I bet I could take this framework and really a lot of the mistakes that I made along the way and help a lot of advisors as they climb their mountain to success, help them avoid a lot of the potholes and the pitfalls. And that could be valuable to a lot of people.
For viewers and listeners, you should know. So Derrick has a book as well. And Derrick, your book titled Good Money Revolution is about creating wealth and meaning at the same time. So what is the core belief behind this idea and why does it resonate so deeply right now?
Yeah, it's interesting. And so prior to selling my practice, a couple years before I made that decision, I began to hear this vibe in culture that people would talk about. They say, Derrick, I don't want to make a lot of money because people will think less of me. And I was floored. I was like, what are you talking about? The whole game is how do we make more money, right? That's what you're paying me to help you with. And then they would talk about, well, look at Jeff Bezos. He's so successful at Amazon, and he certainly must be oppressing all of the workers there so he can have all the money. I said, well, how do you know that? Well, that's just what I read. And what I began to realize was so much of culture was beginning to vilify the wealthy, the people who had the money and the wherewithal to make all the difference in the world. They were beginning to feel like, oh no, you're the enemy. You need to kind of take it down a bit. And what that meant was the less money they had, the less impact that they would have on people. And so the whole premise of the book is just hitting that hard and saying, look, don't just make money the goal. If you make a bulging bank account your number one goal, that's going to lead to burnout. And you're going to put your family to the side and put your friends to the side and hit the mountaintop. You're going to look around and it's really lonely up there. Your voice is just going to echo, and that's just not right. Instead, I want you to make more money, make a lot of it by adding huge value to people's lives, and then use it for good. And then use a cause that you care about. For example, mine was I loved investing in the lives of young people and helping them advance and giving them the skills they need to succeed. And so that's what I built my business on. And clients were attracted to my business because of my education focus. It was just so easy. High net worth clients love to work with people. It gives them a sense of status when they work with professionals who are involved in the community. And so the whole framework of the book is go make more money and then do more good with it. And then because you're feeling good about it, you want to make more money to feel even gooder, if that's a word. But that's the revolution. It just keeps spinning and spinning. But it turns this whole cultural issue of money is bad and flips it over and says money is not bad. It's what you do with it that counts.
Oh, I agree completely. And when you mentioned Jeff Bezos, what's interesting too is that, well, first and foremost, to our viewers and listeners, get your hands on a copy of the book. Good luck putting it down. Thank us later. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. And when you mentioned Jeff Bezos, it's so interesting because what we often share, if we're whether we're on a webinar or at a live event, when you watch film, when you watch movies, most often the wealthy are portrayed as the villains. And Jeff Bezos was being interviewed in some economic forum, and he was being challenged on his wealth. And he said, well, if I can just invite you to look at this through a different lens, I presently own 16% of Amazon. Stop and think about that for a moment in terms of the wealth that I've created for so many others who own the remaining percent of Amazon. And you could just hear the crickets in the room.
Yes.
And because it was just he didn't respond defensively. He didn't try to, rationalize or justify his wealth. He just helped people to look at it from a different vantage point and went on to describe, very similar things. Like any occasion that I have to be in a room with people who are blessed, like the three of us are, to be in financial abundance and to recognize that money just amplifies more of who you already are. If you're a kind, giving, generous person, the more money you have, the more kind, giving, and generous you'll be. When I'm in circles like that, I'm surrounded by some of the most kind, generous, giving people, whether it's giving of their wisdom, their time, their energy. And so when you think of the advisors that work with high net worth clients, what do high net worth clients wish advisors knew before but often didn't take the time to learn. So if you think of a high net worth client considering working with an advisor, what do they wish advisors knew, but often don't take the time to learn?
Well, there's two things that I've discovered, and a lot of these were discovered by many mistakes I made, Jayson. But what I realized is it's really a simple approach. And there's two things to be magnetically irresistible to a high net worth prospect. Number one is you need to own a problem.
Mhm.
And you also need to have a cause that you care deeply about. So let me touch on own a problem. And here's a practical example of that. Let's say that you're in a social event in your community. You've got your favorite drink of choice and you're mingling around the room, and you meet a person who asks you, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" And you say, "Well, I'm a financial advisor." And they say, "Oh, okay." And then you ask them what they do, and he says, "Well, I help people exercise and eat better so they can, be in better shape. I'm a personal trainer." "Oh, great." And then you ask a few other questions. Well, then as the evening goes on, you meet a woman later on, and she asks you, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" And you say, "Well, I'm a financial advisor." She says, "Oh, okay." And then you ask her, and she says, "Well, you know how busy business owners and entrepreneurs, they work hard every day to put others above themselves, but often they want to be healthier but don't know what to do. They don't have the time to do it. I custom tailor workout and eating plans that fit into their budget and their schedule so they can look good and feel good. But most importantly, one day they can be the cool grandparent that has the energy to chase their grandkids across the floor." It's why I love being a personal trainer. Pause. All right. Let's say that a week goes by and you're at home, you're looking in the mirror and you say, "I need a personal trainer." Which personal trainer would you be more likely to call? The first one you met or the second one you met?
Second, hands down.
And why would that be? Why would the second one be the hands down choice?
Stories, connection, and relevance.
Stories, connection, relevance. That's exactly it. And the whole point of that is when you tell someone, "I am a financial services professional, I'm a financial advisor," you can see people's eyes glaze over. They want to leave the conversation. And what you don't realize is you're battling a bias that they have against financial advisors. And it's personal for everybody. You don't know this. All you said is, "I'm a financial advisor." They might be thinking, "I've heard financial advisors lose money for people. They're expensive to work with. They rip people off," whatever that is. And you did nothing except say, "I'm a financial advisor." And so the better way, the instant way to connect with a high net worth prospect is, if you want to make it rain, connect with pain. So you've got to say an immediate financial pain point. For example, here's a couple examples. Rich, you know how so many people worry about running out of money in retirement?
We have a ton more amazing conversations and great clips just like this if you go right here. Or if you want to watch the rest of this conversation, the full episode, click right here.